All right, guys, we are live, brand new Take Aim Outdoor podcast, and excited to talk some deer hunting. This show will be a little different because usually we're talking deer hunting, we're talking whitetails, but today we are talking mule deer, which have become a favorite of mine, and excited to do this with a longtime buddy of mine, Micheal Sobieraj. What's up, Michael?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Thanks for having me.
Not much, man. Excited to have you on. Excited to kind of talk about your awesome mule deer trip.
Yeah, it was an amazing one.
Heck yeah, it was, to say the least. So, but let's give everybody, I think, a little background story on me and Mike. I think we have known each other since like '09. I think it was maybe the second year. Was it the second year of Midwest Whitetail?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think the second year that Bill had launched Midwest Whitetail. So me and Michael over the years have been, basically chatting up hunting stories forever. So excited to have him on and kind of, share this with everybody. So where are you coming from right now? Because I know you weren't hunting, sadly.
I was in Minnesota for training for a couple of days. Now I'm heading home right now to hurry me get back in the tree stand.
Back in Indiana, or?
I haven't decided if I'm going to hunt Indiana or Ohio yet. Might have to run and go check some cameras.
Yeah, exactly. So you're off for another little bit of time, right, after this, when you get home?
Yes. Yep, I'll be off for another week, and then I go back to work for a week, and then I'm off again for another 2 weeks.
I know last year your first trip out to Nebraska?
No, I've gone to Nebraska for 4 or 5 years now. I just didn't shoot anything for a couple of years, trying to learn how to do it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let's get into that. Let's get into how you kind of got to learn this piece of ground, and in over those years you didn't shoot anything, kind of how it helped you on this hunt.
Really kind of got an interest in mule deer hunting when I drew a Kansas mule deer tag, and unfortunately Kansas, it's such a hard tag to draw, so I couldn't hunt again, and I tried doing research and found Nebraska, so I started studying online and just made a trip out there to hunt, and kind of not knowing really what I was doing, and just kind of figure out exactly how to find the deer, how to stalk the deer, and just the first 2 or 3 years were unsuccessful, and kind of just every year just learn a little bit more and more, and like even this year I learned a lot that I think it will be really helpful in the future.
Yeah, so like what items are you talking about this year that helped you, that you think will help you in the future?
This year, what I found was a lot of the bigger mule deer weren't with the does or the other group of deer, and I think that's something I was always screwing up on, because I've never really seen the caliber of deer that I shot this year, and I always seemed to gravitate toward the group of deer. Always thought they were kind of herded animals, kind of like, and this year I kind of wasn't seeing the caliber of deer I was hoping to shoot, so I kind of just went off on different direction and started finding the larger class mule deer that were by themselves away from all the other deer, harder to find and harder to spot.
Gotcha. So a lot of this ground was like public, so.
Yeah, correct. Public walking ground.
So you basically give everybody, Michael, like a rundown on how that works. Like, is it basically you find your spot to park and then you have access, or are you able to kind of drive around, or how does all that work?
They have several different size properties. Ones I was on was a little bit larger. Yeah, you could drive around a little bit on the outskirts, but you couldn't drive onto the properties. You had to drive off of main roads, and either you parked at the designated parking areas or you parked alongside the properties and hike back in. That was a big thing for me, was having to get way, way, way back in there, away from the areas that people would normally walking and hunting on.
Right. Yeah, that's huge, kind of to get away from some of that pressure. But, and I know there's all kinds of trickery and mind games with that, but did you notice other hunters, and did you kind of avoid any of those spots?
Yes. If I was driving around and saw several vehicles parked in certain areas, I just either bypass that property or bypass that area.
Gotcha. So, I mean, we didn't kind of spill the beans on the story yet, but you basically shot really a once-in-a-lifetime deer, one of the best mule deer archery bucks ever in the state of Nebraska. It's going to ultimately be top 5 if you decided to enter it in the books, but give us a story. I mean, you shot 2 of them, so which one do you want to start with?
I guess we can start with the big one. Start off with a bang, I guess. Actually spotted this mule deer once again by himself one morning, and tried to do a stalk on him, and unfortunately got busted by him. And then I hunted for several days afterwards, but unfortunately every single time he was doing something different, wasn't doing anything similar, and it was really frustrating trying to do a stalk with him or set up on me. I don't know if it was the moon phase or the weather or whatever stage they were in, but he was going back to bed so early that if I wasn't even close to the area he was at, I would never even see him to be able to set up a stalk on him. And it was a struggle. I knew I was close to him every single day, but there were several days I didn't see him, and I ended up I was paying attention to how the wind directions were and kind of areas he was staying at, and the day I harvested him, it was calling for the same wind that was the first day I'd seen him, and I banked on him trying to go back to bed in the same area. And sure enough, I got there so early just to make sure I didn't spook him or anything, and right as it was cracking daylight, I saw him coming straight toward me. It was a sight I'll never forget. And he bedded down, and he was within 80 yards of me, but I wanted to get a little bit closer, so I slid back over the hill and kind of circled around and I got closer, but it was still a 54-yard shot, and I just waited till he finally stood up. I think he bedded down. I don't think that was the spot he was planning on bedding all day, and he stood up to stretch out, and it was a shot I couldn't pass up, and ended up making a perfect shot on him.
So let me just back up for a second, Michael. So when you had previously seen this deer for how long?
4 days I've seen him for.
4 days, and you were just unable, due to wind or whatever, to get a stalk on him those days?
Yep.
Okay. So one of those 4 days, though, this deer gave you this location in that same wind?
The very first day, yes, the very first day.
So you use that to your advantage from what you learned to sneak back in there, basically?
Correct, because I knew I spooked him some, but I knew that he knew that he got out of that spot safely and didn't get shot, so he would kind of keep that as a safe spot for him still, as well as banking on.
Yeah, absolutely. They do that, so that's a good lesson for everybody that's new to mule deer hunting or, thinking about getting into it. So
I think it works that same pattern works just as well for whitetails as well.
Yeah, I'm starting to believe that more and more. It's kind of evident, so to speak, if you can, find that location. That's the key, that's the hard part. If you can find the location, and then, if you happen to bump them once, oh well, if the conditions are the same, like Michael said, in their mind, they got away free and safe. That means that spot worked.
Correct.
Yeah. So getting back to this big mule deer, so you snuck in there early. What time you're there, like within that range before daylight?
I was set up 2 hours before daylight right there.
Jesus, you got there way early.
I wasn't sure how early he was getting back in there, so I wanted to make sure I definitely beat him to the area without bumping him. So I got way back in there, pretty much took a nap on my bag while I waited for sunrise to come up.
So what time was that about, sunrise?
Sunrise, I believe, was at like 7:30.
Okay. And then how long did it take you to spot him from sunrise? I
spotted him at like 8:10 in the morning, and he was probably 150 to 200 yards away when I first spotted him.
Okay.
I stayed there and glassed him until he bedded down. I didn't want to try to cause any movement for him to catch. So. And
then, did you move from that location where you were kind of napping with your bag, or did you just stay there and start a glassing?
Correct. I tried to figure out the best game plan to get even closer to them to get within bow range.
Right. Okay. And so from there, basically, he bedded down, and then you decided kind of like what you were going to do?
Yeah, so around the hill, so I was hidden by the hillside there. Doing that still, the wind was kind of going to him, so I had to deal with the crosswind, where the wind just barely misses him to be able to stock up on him. That's kind of something I've really had to notice was, I mean, they always set up with that wind to their back, and then they sit on the backside of these hills where they can see a long ways. And so you kind of, if you want to stock them from the easiest side, which is the backside, you really got to work on that crosswind and just have your wind just barely miss them.
Right. Yep. That's a really good tip too, man. Really good point. And which is hard to do because you have to be very, very, in tune with that wind. You can't like let it slip your mind. You got to keep working that wind the whole time with you, which isn't easy. Yeah. So we're at 8:10 in the morning. You're about to make the stalk. What goes on next?
Correct. Just slowly climbing up that back side of the hill. Once I get close to the top, I got my hands and knees, and that's where you get all their stickers out there. It seems like everything over there is prickly and pokey out there. So that's always the fun part of trying to get within range of them, is crawling through those prickly stuff.
Yeah, what are those called? Those cactus spurs or spurs? Oh my gosh.
I don't even know what they're called, but they hurt. I know I still got several on my finger that I don't see, but if I touch the skin just right, it pokes deeper.
They do, man.
Oh, yes. I know there was a couple times during that crawling where I had to stop and take my gloves off and just take some off because there was too many on me. So as I'm crawling to him, finally got a glimpse of his rack, and I knew I was getting closer and closer, and he was just constantly facing the opposite way from me. He had no clue I was there. 10, 15 mile per hour wind. Yeah, sorry, my GPS just talked to me there, confused me there. I'm using my GPS to drive home as well. So he.
Okay. No, that's all right, man. You think he actually got a speck of your wind?
No, I don't think he got my wind at all. I mean, he was just constantly facing the opposite way, and once I felt like I was as far as I could get without risking spooking him anymore, I just sat there waiting for him to stand up. I've always noticed these bucks, any of the deer really, that anytime they do bed down, they still get up, shift, stretch, whatever, shift their beds a little bit. And years past, I always thought you could run at them to get them to stand up, or if they do spook a little bit, you watch all the TV shows, the mule will hop off a little bit, stop and look back. And hunting these public grounds, I've learned that they definitely do not stop and look back. And if you try to make any noise to spook them up, every time I've done it, they just bolted straight out of bed and never gave me a shot. So I'm just wait till they stand up instead of trying to make them stand up.
Right. Yeah, they don't give you much time if you kind of try to bump them out of that bed. It's a bad, it's low percentage, but that's just a testament to, always in hunting we talk about having patience. And if you can have patience, it seems to always pay off.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, I learned that because everything I've learned from mule deer hunting has been reading through magazines and watching hunting DVD and TV shows. And I guess with them hunting the private ranches, these mule deer stop to look back and aren't as skittish. And everything I found in these public land mule deer is any little screw up there, they're bolting out of there.
Yeah, but they're getting after it and getting out of there, no doubt. So how long from the actual start of the stalk to you basically pulling back the bow, how long did that take you?
About 2 hours.
Jeez. And to 2 hours to cover how much ground?
30, 40 yards.
So the wind, was it constant enough? It doesn't sound like it was constant enough for you to kind of...
Yes, it was. Yes, it was constant. There was a little bit of wind to hide any noises I made, which was really helpful.
So you get up to 54 yards. What did had you already ranged them, or how did you do all that?
I constantly always range as I'm stalking in. These animals are so big that you always think you're much closer than what you really are. So I just constantly keep ranging until I feel like I'm at the best spot I can get a shot off at them.
So your last range, you said 54 yards, huh?
54 yards.
That's a good poke. So, I mean, another good tip for everybody if you're thinking about mule deer hunting, especially if you're one of us Midwestern guys, you got to extend that range out. I know we're so used to shooting inside the timber, inside the woods, and it's a 30 yards max. But like Michael's in Nebraska and Kansas and the other Great Plains states, you got to extend that range. You really need to be pumping out there at 50 and 60 yards.
Correct. Yeah, I practice all summer long, get ready for this trip just because I know sometimes your shots have to be further out. Also, these are bigger animals, and I feel like there's a bigger kill zone, so you're able to shoot that much further out a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. They're big animals. I mean, even the pictures of yours, they look upper end to be 250 to 300 just on the hoof, and they could be even a touch heavier.
Correct. Yeah, I always thought they were the same size as one. Yes. Yeah, before I started hunting mule deer, I always thought mule deer were the same size as whitetails, and learned definitely after killing one that they're definitely much larger and a lot harder to load up in a truck.
Yeah, they're big, which is cool, but which gives you some confidence, like you said, Michael, about shooting farther.
Yes, yeah.
That is crazy. That is so true, though. I mean, it probably even almost as impossible just to get one on a deer cart or the back of the truck bed, ATV. It's just like if
bought some stuff, whatever, and I worked with my tool shop, and we actually fab things up to make my life a lot easier to do that, to be able to handle an animal that size. And I got a deer cart that we end up fabbing up a little bit more, beef it up, and make it a larger frame to be able to carry a mule deer a lot easier out. And then also modified a deer lift that goes in my hip so that I can just crank the deer up instead of trying to pick it up.
So let's get to the good stuff. So 54 yards, you're weighted. Once you got in that kind of that space where you felt comfortable about shooting him, how long was it before he decided to stand up?
Probably 45 minutes, an hour.
Geez, so a good amount of time still. Kind of, those are funny because sometimes it works to make you calm your nerves, and sometimes you're a little more on edge.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. The biggest key is making sure you're ready to clip and draw back the split second they stand up, so you kind of have to keep focused so much. Because, I mean, I try to use that movement of them moving themselves to be the perfect time to draw back, and so they're not fully paying attention to me when they're moving or any of that stuff, or looking around as much.
Yep. Nope, that's exactly perfect. Because lots of times, that does happen where somebody just kind of drifts off, you're not paying attention, they stand up, you're not ready to pull back, and then you pull back, they look right at you, and they're gone. So.
Yes. Yep, that was a lesson I learned 2 years ago, unfortunately. So, yes.
Yeah, it does happen. Yeah, for sure. So I learned that lesson in about 4 or 5 stalks in Alberta last year. You just kind of like, you almost get, boredom sets in after, 30, 45-minute wait, and you lose that sense of awareness for 1 split second. They're standing up. I mean, it just always works that way, So he stands up. So basically, does he stand up perfect and you just launch the arrow?
Correct. Yes, I made sure I was within a good broadside area of him. So when he stood up, he was still facing straight away from me. So as soon as he stood up, I was drawing back and settled that pin in, and he never once looked back at me. Yeah, it worked out absolutely just perfect to a T. You read the script. Yep.
That's crazy. So you basically center punched him from the pictures I saw, but how far did he end up running?
He probably ran 125, 150 yards.
No way. So as you were kind of like, I assume, getting closer, did you, legitly know at all what you had just shot?
Correct, yeah. It's a hilly area, so he went over the hill, and just being nervous, any bow hunter, you kind of just start questioning your shot. And so I just laid there, calling buddies, talking to friends, just trying to keep busy so I don't go looking for them or pushing them or anything. Finally, I gave it an hour and a half. My buddies convinced me to at least just slow peek over the hill, and as soon as I peeked over the hill, I seen him laying there.
Yeah, I would assume, like you said, you don't know until you kind of get really close to him, because he's got a lot of stuff going on, man. Let's be honest.
No, I knew he was a big deer, but I didn't know he was as big as he really was. I tried not to focus his antlers once I really considered him a shooter. And when I walked up to him, I mean, actually, you probably saw the snap that I sent you. The whole time I'm walking around just, oh my God, what did I just shoot? Holy cow, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, he's super tall in the back, and I mean, you notice the points, but I sort of noticed the height and the mass first, me personally.
Yes, he's got 21 points. His kicker is just absolutely everywhere, just huge mass.
Yeah, no clue either. Even the snap, when you sent that snap to me, I was like, I just noticed the mass and the height, and then afterwards when I saw some picture, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more going on than what I thought.
Yes, I noticed the height and mass from far away, but then when you're up close and just looking at him, that's when all the points really come out to you. Like I had no idea he had that much trash and kickers everywhere.
No, he does. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it either. So makes it really unique, really special, and I love good deer that come out of Nebraska. So I was super excited that you had killed one there that of that caliber. It's so insane.
Yes. He's got really crazy palmation, which I've never seen anything like it.
So I know rough estimate with 21 points and kind of the mass, and you had texted me and said you'd kind of watch some videos about how to deal scoring-wise with all that mass. You think he's in that rough 220 to 230 range?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a mega giant. There's no doubt. And by looking at him and trying to do all that, he's got so much going on. It would be hard to say he can't score that. You know what I mean? So, but I know you put the tape to him and try to do it yourself, but it's just like give or take, he's in that ballpark, which means he's an absolute freaking stud.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's got to be somewhere around that range. I don't plan to get him officially scored. I mean, that's just not something really I'm into, but I know he's in that range. Yeah,
how crazy is that? Because it is, like, we know it's such a hit in the lotto thing to shoot a 200-plus inch deer, a whitetail or mule deer.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. It's crazy. You always see people shoot these mega giant deer, and you always wonder, why in the world am I never the one to shoot the deer of a lifetime, man? For once, I'm that guy.
It's so crazy. So, and then you turn around and you shot another one, which is amazing.
Yes. After I shot that one, getting them all processed up in the coolers, I still had several days where I had to go to my state for training and everything. So, several people I talked to that come out here said that you can shoot 2 mule deer if you buy another tag. And I read through the manual, the regulations, and it didn't really say that, but did not say, so I was kind of confused. And I ended up calling the administration for law enforcement there and talked to the head guy there and asked him questions about it, and he said you absolutely can shoot 2 as long as you're not hunting some of the southern management areas that only allow 1 deer to be shot.
Gotcha. So you weren't on one of those zones or areas?
Nope, I was not. Nope. So, yeah, he's correct, yes.
Which is good. So I know that I had familiar with the Nebraska Game and Parks and some of the rules and stuff, and I was confused by it too. And I know that a lot of them, especially on the public lands, each of those have their own individual rules. So if you are planning to do your own trip out west, especially in Nebraska, you got to pay attention to the state laws, but also if you're on a wildlife management or some kind of federal reserve, you have to pay attention to each one of their rules as well, because some of them will allow you to only take one of those species, like Michael just said. So you just make sure to double check that stuff.
Correct. Yeah, I had several buddies get a hold of me like, I think you screwed up, and I was like, no, I called. This is who I called. I asked the guy to send me an email to make sure I have proof that I'm legally allowed to do this and everything before I even attempted to even buy another tag and do it.
Yeah, nope. I've known for a long time Nebraska is and has been for as long as I can remember $2 state. It just like I said, you got to depends where you're at in some of those wildlife management areas and stuff like that, because like I said, they do have individual rules. I know that I was telling you, Michael, that I was planning on going to one this year, and it was just a whitetail only, and you could not shoot your second whitetail. So it was, you go there, it's one whitetail and you're done. But you could go 15 miles to the west or 20 miles south and hunt another wildlife management area and be able to fill that second tag. So it just depends where you're at. Yeah, it's crazy. So, but yeah, your second deer is man, it's a bruiser too, and anybody would love to shoot that deer as well.
Yeah, I actually believe the second deer is a much older deer than the bigger one that I shot. This one is easily well over 300 pounds, and I believe he's just on the downhill slide. This humongous body, and 17-inch G2s. I mean, he's just so tall. He's just amazing. This was almost the same situation, but a lot less of a span in between of hunting. The night before, I was sitting kind of in between, I assume, if your mule deer and a feed field, and I'm on top of this, him standing from his bed really far away, and the next morning, I tried to set up close to where I assumed where I thought I saw him stand up from, and end up intersecting him walking back to his bed. This one was one of those where I set up on a nice between two ridges there, and he ended up walking on the opposite ridge with him. Yep.
Hey, Michael, sorry to interrupt, but I can hardly hear you. Getting a lot of back static, kind of echoing.
So the next morning I set up trying to intersect him, because I knew from where I saw him bed at that the only food source was to the east of where I saw him bed at. So I ended up setting up closer to where I believed he stood up at, in between there and the bedding area, and intercepted him between two ridges walking back to his bed, and I ended up getting a shot at him while he was walking back to his bed. Yeah.
Wow. What time was that at?
That was right at daybreak there, like 15, 20 minutes after sunrise.
Wow. Now, was he with a group of deer or just solo?
Once again, he was solo. Yeah, that really surprised me, because normally I go earlier in the year where they're doing a lot less running activity, and this year was a little bit later, so I figured there'd be a lot more running activity than them being with them, and they were the exact opposite of what I thought they were going to be doing. It took me 3 or 4 days before I even realized to shift away from all the does to start seeing the bigger bucks and seeing shooters.
Unbelievable. So, if there's anything you could share with anybody, Mike, as far as was there anything specific that really helped you out gear-wise for this hunt, or that you must have on a hunt like this?
And the biggest thing I think you have to have is equipment to get the animal out of there and onto your equipment. You can't drive back on any public ground, so it makes it hard for people to want to go way back deep in pieces of public ground, because you got to figure out a way to get your animal out. And
right, that's a huge task.
Correct, yeah. I know that second mule there took me 4 or 5 hours of rolling them out. So it's something you have to be willing to do and be able to handle to do. And having the right equipment for a good DC strong deer cart is an absolute must.
Yeah, I wonder if they even, I mean, I know you beefed yours up, but I wonder if there is one on the market that is suitable of even doing that.
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. So that's another question for another day, another podcast, I guess. So, but we'll definitely get, the some of Michael's pictures for the media art for this podcast, and you guys can see this big deer, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm super excited to see it when Michael gets back in town. He's still driving, as you guys know. He said that earlier, but I ready for him to get here now so I can see this beefcake.
I've been staring at him for the last week every day, so I'm still speechless about it happening.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Well, I'm super happy for you, man, and I'm glad you got to be on the show today and share that with everybody.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Not a problem. Well, if you want Michael anywhere to let people know where they can find you social media-wise, like Instagram or anything like that?
No, I don't have any of that stuff. I just have Facebook. So if you want, add me on Facebook. Follow on my adventures if you want. I do a lot of traveling every year. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will put the link to Michael's Facebook in the show notes for this podcast, and we'll go from there, man. But I hope you end up smoking another one, Michael, and we'll be back on the show talking about it.
All right, appreciate it, bud.
And for everybody, as you know, each week we're live on Pod Bros Outdoor Podcast channel, and check us out iTunes and the Unfiltered Outdoor app. So once again, thanks to Michael, and we'll see you guys next week.